Alright, Tesla update here on the 29th. Not really that much going on today, actually, after the first couple of hours, just sitting there, even Tesla just bouncing back and forth. So in the last video, we left off, I was talking about this coming down here, potentially going lower, but probably finished. I showed you the top here to this wave right here, which was either 2 or B. And we hit right at the bottom of the parallel line. I also showed that this ended up being an extension. So this ended up being 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 9-wave extension. It did not hit the 1.61 fib of the A wave. Which was at 200. Came short of that. And it didn't really break the parallel line. It barely did, but it's basically right on the edge of it. And then we immediately get this pump up here. So I'm going to give you a bear count and a bull count from here. For me, I'm leaning towards the bull count, obviously, because it's a big pump. We're now above the 20 DMA. We're above the 200 DMA, which we were yesterday at the close. The only DMA that we are below is the 50, and that should be up here around like 217, 218. So the only bear count I have from here, just based on this, we invalidated 5 waves. So it can't be 5 waves anymore. That was this. That would have been like this. But since the 4th wave came into the 1st wave, that's invalidated. The only bear count from here, not the only one, but the more short-term bear count, is actually, if you watch the SoFi video, it's basically the exact same thing. It's just a shorter version of it. So it's this. Be like that. So that's the only bear count. That would be the same thing. It'd be like a 333. Same thing I talked about in the SoFi video. I think that that's very unlikely, just based on the fact that we pumped all the way up here to 215, and there's a ton of support back here. There is a gap fill at 206, which I'm going to go over here in a second. So I think it's very unlikely. This one retraced to the 0.61 fib. We've already retraced to, about the 6.61 fib, actually the same. So now that is the bear count. That would look like this. If it were to happen, it would look like this. And I'd be looking for like 197, around that range. So that is a possibility, but let's zoom in here and look at the smaller time frames. If this was a bear count, then it's very possible that this would be a first wave. So A or 1, and then this would be 2 or B, right here. So I'll be watching this parallel line here. And this is an expanded flat, in my opinion. So expanded flat right here. So this should be a third wave, I think, or the C wave. So I'd be looking for potentially down here to 207.50 for a C wave, or a third wave. But the gap is down here at 206, so that's the only spot that's kind of weird. It would have to go past the 1.61 fib. So we'll see what happens here. This kind of looks corrective as well. I'm on the 1 minute time frame though, so I don't put a ton of weight into it. I do look at the 1 minute when I'm trading sometimes. This looks pretty corrective to me. So we'll have to see how it goes from here. Obviously, if this is a 5-wave move down, the invalidation is above 214.91. So I'm just watching this next move down to see what happens. If it's a second wave, if this was a first wave up, then we're looking for a second wave or a C leg down here to like 207 be the 0.61 retracement, potentially down here to gap fill at 206. And then it would look like first wave, second wave, third wave would go all the way up here to about 222.89, pull back, and then I think go up here like 230. So the whole thing would look like this. So that's kind of why I was a little bit, I was thinking he's either going to come up here to 217 to 221 into this supply zone and then retrace. And it still could go up there and retrace all the way back to 206, but we stopped here at 215. And so the path of least resistance here is probably coming down here and filling the gap and then taking off. Either that or, again, come down here to 197. Let's zoom out here a little bit and just look at the overall structure of the whole move and give you an idea of what I'm thinking. So this right here retraced to about the 0.61 fib. Pretty standard. And then from there, we've only retraced on this move to a little bit past the 0.5 fib. If we look at the standard deviations on here, you can see here it doesn't really make that much sense to come down here and hit 160 right away, because we're already at, we'd be way past 2 standard deviations on the downside. So what I'm thinking is we're probably going to come up here and hit 0.61, but more than likely the 0.78 fib here at 248. If we look at this parallel line here, where does that take us to for 248? It does take us down here to 197. So we got to be careful that that move I talked about, the bear count, doesn't happen first. But even if that happens, I still think we're going up here to 248. If we stop here at 202, we could be headed all the way up here to 255. Those are both in the supply zone up here. Going back to the move that would happen to get there, this is 5 waves up right here, and I just laid it all out for you. It hits about 230. Look where the 1.61 fib of 230 is, right at 249. So I would probably be looking for, well, it could go either way. It could be just a straight impulse up here. This right here, I think, was an ABC move right here. So A, B, C. So this was ABC, obviously, so far, ABC. So this could end up being an ABC move as well. And then the whole thing, we hit the top of the parallel line. You can see the parallel line, put it up here. The whole thing would actually end up being W, X, Y, retrace to the 0.78 fib, and then we would get a move down here to potentially 160 in December. And so that's when I talk about like them all being kind of on the same structure and the same path. This is very similar to SoFi. So if you watch the SoFi video, I said they could potentially go up to 960. Tesla would probably hit up here at 245 around the same time period, I would think. And right now, I'm saying somewhere between like September 15th and September 20th. Where would we hit down here after that happened? Well, July 11th to September 11th, that is 2 months. So potentially like around the election, maybe around that time period. Is it still possible that this breaks out? It's possible, but I really don't feel like this is an impulse right here. And for this to be a C leg higher, or a third wave, you would want a really impulsive move here. I don't see it. So I don't think we're ready to go down, but I don't think we're also ready to go up that far. So this makes the most sense to me. Either down to 197, or we've already made a first wave, retracing down here to like 207, 206, and then up here probably to like 230, pull back, and then 248. So that's my thoughts on it right now. Actually updated. There is a 3-day demand zone also here from 194 to 208, and then this is weekly demand. It hit 6-hour demand yesterday. So we're in a pretty big, nice support zone here, and then you have all of the moving averages. We're above the 20, we're above the 200, and you have the 50 up here. If it were to break and make that bear move, it would have support from the 20 on the weekly, which is at 197. So I'm leaning up from here. Unless it decides to do that bear move to 197, I'm looking in the next like month. More than likely, we're headed up here to 245 to 256. If something changes, I'll make another update. That is pretty long video on update on Tesla. The only gaps I can see right now on the chart are at 206, 219, and 245. Those are the only three below or above this right here, above 182. So that also points to higher because the algos or whatever, whoever wants to fill these gaps, 219 and 245. If it ends up being a third wave, you have a gap up here at 290 as well. So that is pretty much it. I'm leaning up. If I were going to buy here, I would be buying probably down here at 206, 207 if we can get a retrace down here for a second wave. And if it ends up being an impulse, then obviously down here at 197 would be a good buy as well. So that's it for this video. Leave me a comment, like, subscribe if you like it, if you like the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.